After chanting for 3 days and nights, Amitabha Buddha appeared. Amitabha Buddha told him, "You have 10 more years of life. You have 10 more years of life. Use these 10 years to practice well until the end of your life." He said to him, "I will come to take you then." Is there such a response? Truly, when sentient beings have a sincere heart, the Buddha responds, and your sincere heart brought the Buddha here. Master Yinki told Amitabha, "Buddha," he said, "my habits are too strong. I can't resist temptation. In these 10 years, I don't know how many sins I might commit." I don't want the 10 years of life. I want to go with you now." Then Amitabha Buddha agreed. He said, "All right, in 3 days I will come to receive you." Yinki was very happy. "All right, in 3 days. When the Buddha comes to meet me, I will go with you." So he opened the door and joyfully told everyone in the temple that in 3 days he would pass away. Everyone in the temple thought he was out of his mind. How could such a wicked person pass away in 3 days? Fortunately, 3 days isn't long, right? Everyone just waited to see if he would pass away in 3 days. So on the 3rd day, during the morning class, he washed himself and changed into clean clothes. He asked his fellow students to chant Amitabha Buddha during the morning class today, to send him off to the afterlife, to send him off. So, the content of the class was changed a bit. They recited the Amitabha Sutra and chanted the Buddha's name to send him off. When the chanting of the Buddha's name was about to end, it lasted only about a quarter of an hour. Not long after, he told everyone that Amitabha Buddha had arrived. He could see him, but others could not. I am leaving with Amitabha Buddha, saying goodbye to everyone. He really had completed it. Wasn't sick. His performance was to tell us something, a frequently mentioned saying, whether 1 or 2 days, or if the day is not wrong. Usually doing bad things, and not chanting the Buddha's name at all, yet in 3 days he could be reborn. It's not fake, is it real? Today, we chant in a room for 30 days, we can't be reborn. What's the reason? Your heart is false, not genuine. You are not sincerely following the sutra. Every chant of the Buddha's name is mixed with delusions and distractions. You don't know how terrifying hell is. The smallest part of the galaxy is terrifying. If you don't achieve rebirth, you'll end up in hell. It's terrible. There are 2 paths, no choice. So we fear the suffering of hell. Wholeheartedly focus on one thought, to seek rebirth in the West, the land of ultimate bliss. So this is about lifespan. Even if, in past lives, or this life you've created karma, there's no need to fear. As long as you truly possess the heart, vow, and practice these 3 conditions. Even beings in hell can achieve it in 1 lifetime. Become a Buddha and take charge. The Dharma door is inconceivable. Why do we use our mouths to speak idle words instead of chanting Buddha's name? You should know if you don't chant Buddha's name, you're creating verbal karma. You'll have to endure the retribution of the 3 sufferings. Interacting with people all day long, gossiping about others. It's all about talking right and wrong, people and matters. The little merit from practicing Buddhist scriptures and external Buddhist practices, or gets lost through your mouth. Your accumulated efforts turned into sins. Boundless sins are committed, and that little merit is entirely lost through your mouth. You must remember this. You need to understand and quickly turn back. This habit, reciting Amitabha Buddha every day, is to praise the Tathagata. With a sincere heart, reciting Buddha's name without mixing or interruption. If you don't engage in boundless merits and instead create sins, there's nothing more to say. This is the meaning of praise. The third phrase, extensively practicing offerings. Look, in the case of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas practice giving to all sentient beings. And Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, he doesn't practice giving, he practices offerings. So, for us, ordinary bodhisattvas, we people are the same. We offer to the Buddha, to bodhisattvas, to our elders, we make offerings. To our peers, to ordinary sentient beings, we do not. Actually, it's not just about making offerings. The difference lies in whether there is a sense of respect or not. Without a sense of respect, it's not an offering. With respect, it is an offering. This sense of respect does not meet the standard of Samantabhadra. Is it still called giving? It's not yet an offering. It requires the great path, the standard of Samantabhadra, sincerely sharing. So, the practice of Samantabhadra involves giving to all sentient beings with the respectful mindset of making offerings and blessings. This is what we should learn. Especially, not just to subordinates. Not just to some poor people. You definitely can't say, come here, this is for me, I'm not giving it to you. A dismissive attitude. Not seeing people as important. When can we change this attitude? When we see poor people, or even beggars, we should give to them with the same respect as if we were making offerings to the Buddha. Road fault. Then you are practicing the light of offering. Just practicing the light of offering. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it is explained in great detail. It is discussed. Practicing the conduct of Samantabhadra is to broadly learn offerings. Within this, the realm is vast, immeasurable and boundless. The Buddha expounded the Dharma for the sake of convenience in teaching. Speaking of the immeasurable and boundless, these matters are categorized into three major types: material giving, Dharma giving, and non-material giving. So within offerings, there is material offering and Dharma offering. I would be included among the tycoons. Bodhisattva. In the chapter on the vows and practices, he especially provided us with a comparison of the excellence of merits. He mentioned, even if you use the great 1,000 worlds to ensure giving, this is simply not something an ordinary person can achieve. Who could possess great wealth? The 7 treasures of the great 1,000 worlds. None of them can compare to it, to a single phrase of the Dharma. Bodhisattva Samantabhadra in the Avatamsaka Sutra has this teaching. Shakyamuni Buddha in the Diamond Sutra also has this teaching. In the Diamond Sutra, it is said that giving the 7 treasures of the great 1,000 worlds cannot compare to the merit of explaining a 4-line verse to someone. Explaining a 4-line verse to someone means taking 4 sentences from the Diamond Sutra. Explaining this to others surpasses the merit of giving the 7 treasures of the 8,000 worlds in material charity. Is there such great merit? Don't believe it. Nobody believes. Just look at today's society. Doing a bit of charity work. Newspapers, magazines, and television all promote it. When you go outside, there's not a single philanthropist who isn't praised. When you release it here, let alone the 4-line verse, no one recognizes the whole new text you speak of. Who attacks you? Who looks up to you? What merit do you have? What contribution have you made to society? People in the world only see the immediate thoughts. They haven't seen the future. If not seen. The Buddha clearly understands this. And what the Buddha says is absolutely true without a doubt. What about the next one? In the vast world, 70 or 80%. What all beings have obtained. Some of the hardships in their current lives have been resolved. This benefit is worth it. In other words, they will continue to reincarnate as they should, and life and death will proceed as they must. Problem hasn't been solved. It can only be said that a small part of the material life issues have been resolved. He has nowhere to live, so you build a house for him. He has nothing to eat, so you provide him with food and drink. You just aid him solve these difficulties. But even a single sentence from a Buddhist scripture. You only hear one sentence. Karma and the root courage for those on the path. This merit is determined. It will not be in vain. Buddha uses it, calling it the Vajra seed in your alaya consciousness, even if in this life you do not attain liberation. In your next life, you will encounter the Dharma, continue to cultivate, achieve, and gain benefits in the next life and future generations. After countless eons, there will come a day when the conditions mature, and with just this one seed of quiet contemplation, you will transcend the 3 realms, surpass the 10 Dharma realms, and become a Buddha, a master. The merit and benefit of this is absolutely incomparable to the 7 treasures of the Great Trichiliocosm. The reasoning is here. The Buddha said you spoke wrong. The Buddha said was wrong. So, this is not inferior to the Dharma jewel. If we want to cultivate the most supreme merit, you must cultivate the Dharma jewel. When it comes to Dharma giving, we say we can't preach. How do I perform Dharma giving? How do I cultivate the Dharma? If you can't preach, can you recite Amitabha Buddha? Being able to recite Amitabha Buddha is enough. You need to truly know how. In a day, how many people do you unknowingly give this Dharma to? Look, when you talk to others, saying Amitabha Buddha, it's not about them, it's about establishing the Dharma. Now you can't establish Amitabha Buddha over the phone every day. Sentence is Amitabha Buddha. It gets imprinted in the other person's alaya consciousness. Later, they will rely on this phrase Amitabha Buddha to be reborn and not regress becoming a Buddha. Women need to be exceptional, achieving. Whether they achieve it in this life or the next, they will definitely receive assistance. There. Today, don't even mention those who believe in cults. So some students ask me if they belong to those cults. They ask us for books. Should we give them? Why not give it to them if you've already given it? It's goading them. However they learn or understand. They have only just heard the name of Amitabha Buddha. They have heard the sound of Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha Buddha. As long as they see the image, it's fine. They must read what is written. In this life, they still have to face the consequences. They face the result. The consequences of the Abhidharma hell are endured. They will still encounter the true Dharma and be liberated. It seems like it was last year, or the year before, I spoke about this, once in this place. The initiation of the Bodhisattva's supreme influence. At the very beginning of the scripture, the Buddha gave an example. There was someone spreading rumors to avoid becoming a monk. There were 2 monks, and these 2 monks were preaching and teaching the Dharma. Then someone started spreading rumors, accusing the 2 monks of lacking virtue as they passed through. Causing the audience to lose faith in the Dharma. Ruined where the Dharma was being propagated. A person who committed this sin falls into hell. 18 million. 18 million years in human terms. His experience in hell. It's truly countless eons of suffering in hell, where a day feels like a year. Ah, 18 million years. Afterwards, he still has to face retribution. The retribution is being reborn as a wild beast when returning to the human world. Once the retribution is complete, only then can one be reborn as a human and encounter Buddhism again. A long journey of 10 stages. 4 Buddhas have passed. When the Buddha spoke, this matter was during the time of the Buddha's presence. Dealing with this matter. I see how terrifying to create negative karma by speech. Why is that? Because you cut off someone's opportunity to learn the Dharma. You destroyed a person's chance to attain liberation in this life. Where does your sin lie then? So you endure such a long period of suffering, but once the retribution is complete, after all, his alaya consciousness still contains the seed of the Buddha. So, once the retribution is complete, the time taken is so long, it's better to end it. After enduring it all, relying on Vajrasaya, practicing true results, reborn, no regression, becoming Buddha. Not a single one fails to grasp the key point. For the people of Jiaozhu, we must consider what further suffering they have to endure. After this period of suffering, they will still be friends in the Western Pure Land. They will still meet, right? But this period of suffering does not originate from illness. I ask all fellow practitioners to understand these principles and grasp the true facts. You should be alert to this. Goodness must be cultivated. I am determined not to return, determined not to be an object. I would rather give up my life. I am not lacking. Life is not worth regretting. The causes of goodness and merit are important. They must be protected. Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. Speaking, the offerings of the rams are also very, very extensive. It is explained to us in the chapter on the practices and vows, 7 or 8. The Bodhisattva has great compassion. It's all about knowing where to start learning in our daily lives, isn't it? The first of these 7 guidelines. Confucianism offerings. This first point is important. What do we use to make offerings to the Buddha? What use to make offer? What do we use to make offerings to the general public? What do we use to make offerings to all sentient beings? Confucian practice. It means we particularly emphasize that we need to take this Infinite Life Sutra. If you can implement every word and sentence, that is the practice of Confucian offerings. You truly dedicate yourself to the daily recitation of repaying the 4 great kindnesses and relieving the 3 sufferings, and you truly achieve it. Not only do you achieve it, but you achieve it completely and perfectly. This etiquette is profound. Because we are dealing with this profound and vast undertaking. Don't understand. Don't know. So when reading this scripture, often we miss it right in front of us, just skimming through without understanding. Unaware of its meaning inside. Unaware of its realm. Unaware of the compassion of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If you fully understand and comprehend it all, you will naturally engage in practice. These profound meanings often discussed by the Buddhas. In the Mahayana Sutras, they talk about this. The intention of forming a connection. You say this thing, we must explain in detail. Forever, muddling through like this. In this life of ours, anyone who studies Buddhism in this life cannot be complacent. Then we still have to rely on the causes and conditions of many lives and stages in the future. How anxious we are. So this matter, it's still worth spending a bit of time on. Time's up for today. We'll continue discussing this sentence next week.